Welcome to the skeletal system. This is pretty simple information, so this is going to be a short lesson. So why do we even have skeletons? Why not exoskeletons like bugs have? Well, our skeletons have a lot of important jobs to do. They support our bodies. They store nutrients like calcium and phosphorus. Our bones form blood cells in their marrow, which we're going to learn more about later. Our bones act as something to anchor our muscles to, and they protect our organs. Some characteristics of our skeletons have very specific purposes. For example, if you look at our bones, most have round ends. These round ends allow a thin layer of cartilage to cover the ends of our bones so that our joints don't scrape together. Our bones are also covered in pits and tiny holes. These allow blood vessels to enter and leave our bones. Lastly, a bone's surface is covered with something called a periosteum. Periosteum is a tough, tight membrane, and it allows our muscles to anchor more easily to the bones with tendons and ligaments. There are two main types of bone that make up each piece of bone: compact bone and spongy bone. You can see these two types in the picture to the right. Pause the video now and look at the picture and see where the spongy bone is located and where the compact bone is located. Compact bone is located directly underneath the periosteum. It's living tissue even if it doesn't really seem like it. Compact bone is very important. It provides the strength that our bones need to hold up all of our limbs. Compact bone is made out of calcium phosphate deposits, and it's full up of bone cells and blood vessels. The other type is spongy bone. Spongy bone is located near the ends of bones underneath compact bone. You can think of spongy bone as the Tootsie Roll at the center of a Tootsie Pop because it's soft and it's inside something that's harder. Spongy bone is much less dense than compact bone. Spongy bone contains a lot of spaces, which makes bones lighter so that we're able to move around more easily. Imagine what life would be like if your bones were only made out of compact bone. They'd be pretty heavy, probably too heavy for you to move around as easily as you do now. The cavities inside spongy bone are also filled with marrow. Bone marrow comes in two types. It can be yellow and made of fat cells, as it was in the picture in the previous slide, or it can be red and produce red blood cells. Those are pretty easy to remember differences. Cartilage is also very important to our movement. Cartilage is a thick layer of tissue which covers up the ends of bones. Cartilage is designed to be slippery and thick so that our joints can move around more easily. Cartilage also acts as a shock absorber to protect our bones. Imagine if you had no cartilage. Jumping off of a chair, imagine your bones slamming together with nothing thick and soft in between them to cushion the blow. Now we're going to talk about bone formation. When you were a fetus, your skeleton was made entirely out of cartilage, but over time that cartilage broke down and got replaced by bone. This new bone was created by cells in your body called osteoblasts. These osteoblasts deposit the molecules calcium and phosphorus to help build up the bones. But the creation of your skeleton doesn't stop when you're born. When you're born, you have a whopping 300 bones. But by the time you're grown up, you only have 206. This is because some bones fuse together as you age, which I think is pretty cool. A joint is any place where two or more of your bones meet together. Healthy bones should never touch each other directly. Healthy bones should always be held apart by cartilage so that there's no damage done to the bone while you're moving around. The other important part of joints are ligaments. Ligaments are thick bands of tissue that help to hold bones in place. There are two main types of joints: immovable joints and movable joints. Immovable joints don't allow for movement. Duh. A good example of immovable joints would be the bones in your skull, which hopefully don't move around. Movable joints, on the other hand, do allow for movement, and they're what you think of when you think of joints. There are several different types of movable joints, which allow for different types of movement. These types include pivot joints, ball and socket joints, hinge joints, and gliding joints. In this slide, you can see how some of those immovable joints work. For example, ball and socket joints can be found in the shoulder, pivot joints can be found in the elbow, and hinge joints can be found in the knees. Pause the video now and move around each one of these body parts. While you're moving around, think about how those joints work. Well, that's it, but before you go, here are your questions. You can answer one or both of these questions for next class, but I will be checking them. What would happen if we only had compact bone and no spongy bone? What would your life be like? How would you move around? And what would happen if you didn't have any cartilage? Don't forget to take notes on this entire lesson. I'm going to be checking your notes for next class. I want you to summarize what you just learned in your own words for your notes and answer one or both of the questions from the previous slide. Thanks.